I would also like to add, dear friends, that today it is a great honor and privilege because I'm so happy that the fourth generation of Reuben David is present here today. Amrita's daughter, Mia, and her cousin, Reuben, and Esther's granddaughter, Mira. Thank you very much, Mira and Reuben, for they just landed from Jodhpur. They are here on a visit, and that's a small token of love from all of us to you. Dr. MP Chandran is a postgraduate in management with more than 30 years of experience in senior and board level positions in public and private sectors in India and abroad. He is the chairperson of the Education Task Force, Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He's also the chairperson, chairman of the Asia Charitable Trust, ACT, and the president of JG University. ACT owns and successfully runs 3 schools, 17 colleges in Ahmedabad. A big round of applause for our guest of honor, Dr. MP Chandran. Thank you very much, sir. A special guest, somebody who has been motivating thousands of students across Ahmedabad, who has done a lot of work in Ahmedabad, and today he has dedicated his life to the service of the students in Ahmedabad. Dr. C.A. Achuddani has more than 21 years of experience and expertise in academics and industry. He holds a doctorate in management and commerce and is also a research guide. He has been a fellow member of the Committee of Review of Education and Training, CRET, of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, a senior mentor and faculty at Academic Staff College, Gujarat University, National Academy of Direct Taxes, DTR, TI, Direct Taxes Regional Training Institute, CEI, Confederation of Entrepreneurship Initiatives, and with Mission Mentors for Strategic Management and International Collaborations. He's also the Director General and Provost of JG University. Welcome, sir. Thank you very much for accepting. Thank you. Yes. Please come. Please come. There are seats in front. Please do come. Anil Bhai, please come forward. Friends, today it's like a dream come true for me because a lot of people don't know that when I was very small, and that is there in the film also as an introduction, so I'm not going to be talking about that. But I always thank God for the wonderful gifts that He's given me in life. Wonderful parents, a wonderful family, wonderful friends, and today a huge family with whom I'm working in JG College of Performing Arts and the JG group of colleges, all who are always there supporting and wishing us all the very best. And today again, I see great faces here in the audience because the person, the miracle man of Ahmedabad, is not a very ordinary man. He's somebody who created, he visioned something really large at a time when nobody really understood what it was. And today, what all of us enjoy on holidays, going to the Kankaria premises and spending a whole day there as a picnic, is something that he gifted to all of us in Ahmedabad. So, without saying much, we'll go straight into the movie, and it speaks in itself. The small talk that I am talking about my journey with Reuben David and Reuben David himself. Can we have the lights off, please? the backlights also off? Thank you. All of them, please. Thank you. Sound. Namaste and welcome to Pratibindh, a reflection of an artist. Today, I will be talking about Reuben David. Who was Reuben David? The people of Ahmedabad surely should know who he was. Well, that's the sad part. Out of sight, out of mind, something that we always say. And that's sadly what has happened as far as Reuben David was concerned. Reuben David is the person who created, who designed brick by brick, tree by tree, bird by bird, animal by animal, the Ahmedabad Zoo. Today, what you see is something which is the effort of Reuben David. Single handedly, he created this marvelous zoo, which is supposed to be the best in Asia. Of course, he had the support of the municipal corporation at that time. If I talk about Reuben David, when I was a very small child, I think in 1969, when I was in the third standard, my father, Keshav Ram, who was the editor of Indian Express, invited his elder brother, Professor K. Bhagyanath, who was a magician, very well-known magician in the south of India. He invited him for a tour of Gujarat to do many magic shows in Gujarat. We also used to travel with him, and in his magic show, he used guinea pigs. When he was returning, I created a big racket and I kept telling my uncle, when you go, please leave a pair of guinea pigs for me. My uncle lovingly did. And after some time, one of them died. I was feeling very bad and I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know where to go to get one more guinea pig. I thought zoo would be the best place. So I requested my father's younger brother, K. Shivdas, who was staying with us, to come with me to the zoo. We went to the zoo. I went to the gatekeeper and I told him I want to meet the zoo superintendent. The gatekeeper didn't know really what to do, but he walked in, he went and told the zoo superintendent, and that is Reuben David, that there's a kid who wants to come and see you. Reuben David was intrigued and he called for me. When I went in, I spoke about my woeful story, the sorrowful story of how one died and how I needed another one. And Reuben David was amused. He told the person, take him to the cage of the guinea pigs and let him pick whichever one he wants. I did that, and when I came back, Reuben David said he would give that to me on one condition, and that is if I would bring my parents next Sunday to the zoo to meet him. I came back triumphant, and I was so happy that I kept pestering my father day in, day out, morning, afternoon, evening, whenever I saw him, saying that we have to go to the zoo next Sunday. And surely enough, we did go, the whole family. We met Reuben David. And since then, this relationship between Reuben David and his family began, which is almost 5.5 decades now, 57 years, if I'm not wrong. We used to go every Sunday practically to their house in Shaibad, and Reuben David and Sarah would welcome us lovingly. Many times, Sarah would have prepared beautiful dishes, and we would have dinner there, or sometimes we would take food there, or sometimes they would come. This kind of bond, this kind of journey continued. I was studying in St. Xavier's School, Loyola at that time, and our principal, Father Zavala, was an excellent person. We used to call him Bud Spencer because he looked very much like Bud Spencer. Father Zavala also was a person who loved birds and animals, and our school was a mini zoo. We had hyenas, we had leopards, we had monkeys, birds, animals. And during the break, we used to run to Father Zawala's office because we wanted to take the leopard cup, which Reuben David had given Father Zavala and which was in his office. We wanted to walk around with this leopard in the school. And many times I used to do that, walking with the leopard on leash. Father Zavala also used to give me birds and animals when they were wounded and they were found in the school campus. He used to give it to me to take home. And in this way, we got very friendly. Many times, Father Zavala used to accompany me to zoo, where we used to meet Reuben David together. And many times, they used to come home, especially for my birthday. Reuben David used to come a day before or the day after, or sometimes, but very rarely, on my birthday, because he didn't like to come there and be a spectacle as he had a electrolarynx voice. But they used to come home and Reuben David used to bring a bag full of goldfish for me. This relation stayed on, and then for a couple of years we were transferred to Cochin. But even while there, he used to write beautiful letters to me on the letterhead of the zoo, talking about what is happening in the zoo. And he also used to jokingly say, I would love to come to Cochin, tie a hammock on the palm tree, and sit there and sip toddy directly from the palm. We came back to Ahmedabad, we continued our friendship, and during that time, I also got close to Esther and Esther's children, Reuben and Amrita. This journey has been beautiful. I watched the wonders that Reuben David had created in the zoo. I used to go with the family and friends. It is so sad that today people hardly know who Reuben David was. The Kamala Nehru Zoological Park, which stands today, the foundation of that was laid by Reuben David. The then president gave him a Padma Shri. The then Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, who praised Reuben David for the wonderful work that he had done. And Nehru also visited the zoo, and he was so intrigued and so amazed at the work that Reuben David has done. How can we forget such a person? And that is why, especially in this episode, I talk about Reuben David and his Midas touch. Padma Shri Reuben David was born on 19th September 1912. Reuben David belonged to the Dandekar family of the Beni Israel Jewish community of Ahmedabad. Most men in their family
were doctors or medical assistants. They came to Ahmedabad in 1857 with the British Raj services. His father, David Joseph, mother, Shebabet, siblings, Rachel, Jacob, Sophie, Albert, and Reuben lived with other family members in a big house near Delhi Gate in the old city of Ahmedabad. Some relatives lived in the houses nearby and got together to celebrate Jewish festivals together. The Davids were practicing Jews. But in his later years, Reuben preferred to be known as a non believer, as he had read Darwin and the theory of evolution. But his Jewish bringing up was very much there, as he was brought up with religious education. Although Reuben was a non practicing Jew, many Jewish families from Ahmedabad, other cities of Gujarat, Mumbai, India, Israel, and other countries came to meet him at his home. These visitors were proud of Reuben's achievements. At home, the only sign of Jewish life was a mezuzah at the door. Besides that, Reuben had booked land for his burial in the Dandekar family grove at the Jewish cemetery. A silk prayer shawl was kept carefully in a box in the cupboard for his own burial. Unlike the other children of the family, Reuben ran away from school and spent his time on the banks of the river Sabarmati, as then birds and animals were seen in large numbers. Often he went to swim. At home, his father had a menagerie and he looked after dogs, birds, and a deer. He hardly finished school, but his elder brother Jacob sensed that Reuben had a way with birds and animals and was instinctive, daring, and had creative intelligence. So he forced him to finish studies by correspondence courses. Both brothers learnt Indian classical music and were also interested in theatre, art, and literature, as their father had a library room at home. Later, being a physically weak child, Reuben took to bodybuilding and eventually won the titles of Mr. Gujarat and Body Beautiful. He was handsome, wanted to become a film star, but his father did not approve that he pursue a career as an actor. Thereafter, he was interested in guns and through this passion befriended the royal families of Gujarat. A shikari with a good sense of trailing animals, as he was good at the beat in locating animals in the forest. But elders of the family shook their manes and professed, Reuben will come to nothing. Reuben gave up hunting due to three incidents that happened in his life. When he could not untangle the intestines of a wounded hare from a thorny bush in the forest around Palanpur, and it died in his hands. The other incident was when another hunter shot a female deer and a fawn spilled out of her womb. Yet another incident, a panther was shot from a machan while the animal was standing face to face with Reuben, who was taking a breather at ground level. The panther was shot by Reuben's friends as they assumed that it would attack him, not realizing that Reuben and the animal were standing eye to eye, experiencing an unusual spiritual moment. But his friends thought that the animal would attack Reuben and killed it, leaving Reuben deeply troubled by this incident. All this and much more made him lay down his guns. He was happier looking after dogs like Buchabai, a Pekingese belonging to the royal family of Palanpur, and breeding dogs at Sara Kennels, which he started in their garden. It was said that when a sick dog was brought to Reuben for treatment, it never died. Reuben's family house was very close to Delhi Darwaza, from where once a Mughal emperor returned back as the howdah of his elephant touched the inside arch of Delhi Darwaza. In Ahmedabad, most Indian Jews lived in small settlements in the old city at Khamasa crossroads. Reuben and his wife Sarah lived in a joint family with their daughter Esther. Being the youngest, Esther had many storytellers, like the elders of the house, her grandmother, Mani the cook, and the family library where she read books. The house had an open courtyard where everybody met. Later, in the nuclear family with Reuben and Sarah, Esther lived in a house full of dogs and they lived like one big canine family. Sarah was a constant source of support and inspiration for Reuben. There was something about Reuben David. That was the reason he was often known as the miracle man of Ahmedabad. The zoo man did not even have a school leaving certificate, a diploma, or a degree. All he had was an instinct of how to handle wild animals, something the visionary civic officials of Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation seemed to recognize in 1951. As soon as Reuben David saw the land that he was allotted to make a zoo, he visualized it on the hillocks around the lake, which he eventually made like a forest teeming with birds, animals, reptiles, and named it Hill Garden Zoo, which was later renamed Kamla Nehru Zoological Garden. Slowly, Reuben David became the pioneer of wildlife preservation in Gujarat. It was a mystical moment when Reuben David created the zoo because as soon as he made the first bird aviary, he convinced the vegetarian civic authorities to get lions, tigers, and panthers for the zoo, and slowly Ahmedabad was known to have the best zoo in Asia. Each bird or animal came to him with a story. He named them and knew their temperaments. Some were named on the dining table when the families of both brothers, Reuben and Jacob, met once a week for dinner with their families in one house or another, often with friends. Reuben had adopted many characteristics of the birds and animals that he loved so much. His home was like a nest, kept impeccably clean and orderly. Another character was the habit of punctuality. Reuben always left home for the zoo at the stroke of 8:30 in the morning. Once at the zoo, he quickly dispensed the daily routine of paperwork and chalked out details of animal care with the zoo personals and his longtime man Friday, Babubai. He then would set out to meet the animals and birds which eagerly waited his arrival. They responded to his electrolyzed speech. He was also very fond of children, to whom he was a grandfather who worked wonders with birds and animals. When Reuben laid down his guns, made the zoo, and became a wildlife conservationist, he could walk into the cages of lions, tigers, panthers, or any other inmates of the zoo. He walked in and out of the cages unarmed, without a scratch. With this, Reuben David conducted his famous experiments in coexistence, similar to the fabled biblical King Solomon. Perhaps he understood the language of his wards. Like Emily, the chimpanzee, many times Reuben David had come face to face with lions, tigers, and panthers, but he was unharmed, maybe because they knew he was one of them. Because when he lost his voice after the surgery of his voice box, he said, "Now I am mute, like my animal friends, and we understand each other much better." He also joked, "The two legged are more dangerous than the four legged." In 1968, Reuben David had lost his voice due to cancer of the larynx, after which he continued to work in the zoo for 20 more years, communicating with birds and animals with his electro-larynx voice.
Hello, how are you? Sweet boy, sweet boy.
He had a positive attitude to life when he said, "Now that I have lost my real voice, I can communicate better with my mute friends." During this period, he also became world famous for breeding flamingos and crocodiles in captivity, rearing white or albino birds and animals, along with experiments in coexistence, where many species of different characteristics live together in the same cage, like Montu the lion and Tommy the dog, or Raju the tiger, Caesar the Alsatian, and a macaque called Bijli. When Reuben agreed to make a zoo for the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation, he was not a zoologist, veterinary doctor, engineer, or architect, but he was all this and much more rolled into one. He had something stronger than education, which is known as instinct and love for wildlife. During this period, Reuben met Babu, alias Mohammed Bhai Rasul Bhai Sheikh. Reuben saw an innocent sparkle in his eyes and trained him to become a man of nature. Babu became Reuben's lifelong aide. During this period, Reuben would often take his daughter Esther to the zoo, which was housed in a greenhouse. His office was a log cabin, which still stands there today. The greenhouse had parakeets, water birds, fish, snakes, rabbits, and a variety of small birds and animals. At that point, the lake had crocodiles, and one evening, two crocodiles walked into the zoo. Babu saw them and cycled down to Reuben's house in Shaibag to inform Reuben. Both cycled down to the zoo, buying bamboo sticks and ropes on the way. They were captured almost barehanded and housed in a well which existed in the zoo premises. Later, they were shifted to an open enclosure with a pond where they bred in large numbers. During those years, flamingos were hunted for meat by people living around Nal Sarovar. These poachers trapped flamingos along with other water birds, broke their legs, and sold them for meat. Reuben sent Babu to befriend them and paid them more than what they would normally earn. This is how Reuben David saved flamingos, created breeding colonies of flamingos and other water birds at the zoo. With the flocks of flamingos and a family of crocodiles, he created world records of breeding them in captivity, which were published in the prestigious International Zoo Yearbook. By then, Reuben's close friend and mentor, Zabardast Khan Sahib, a royalty from the ex-state of Palanpur, sent his aide Siddhi Bashir to help Reuben, as he had a knack with big cats. He also sent a panther cub for the zoo, as he knew that Reuben was ambitious about getting tiger and lions for the Hill Garden Zoo. A panther cub would be a good beginning. When Reuben informed the authorities about the panther, they refused permission to keep the carnivorous animals in Ahmedabad, as Gujarat was a vegetarian state. So for a while, Reuben kept the panther in the house, much to Sarah's discomfort. She kept a job as a school teacher till the end, as Reuben often sent his resignation letter to the municipal corporation. That is, if they did not approve of his many ideas, which he wanted to implement in the zoo. Later, Reuben shifted the panther cub to a friend's bungalow and informed the officials that the panther cub was a gift from the royal family of Palanpur, and the authorities reluctantly gave permission to keep it. Eventually, for all these amazing qualities with wild animals and birds, he was known as the gentle animal keeper of Ahmedabad. While the zoo was growing, Vanrani, the lioness, abandoned her cubs, and Reuben got a stray female dog to feed them. One of the lion cubs who survived was Montu, who was to become Reuben's companion as long as he lived. With Montu, Reuben performed his famous experiments in coexistence. As a full grown lion, lived with his canine mother and allowed his foster brother, Tommy, to bully him. Reuben was also part of the experiment, as he was often seen with them in the same enclosure, and they became known all over the world. Then there was Raju the tiger, whose enclosure Reuben entered whenever he felt like it. They were photographed often, and Raju did not mind posing with others as long as Reuben was around. Raju lived in an open enclosure with an Alsatian and a macaque. He shot to fame when Professor J.K. Galbraith, ambassador for USA in India, was photographed with Raju. He wrote about it in his book, An Ambassador's Journal. Then on to the zoo, where we were taken in a tour by a remarkable zoologist by the name of Reuben David. In the last 3 years, he has created one of the most charming zoos in the world on a little hillside by a tank, and he lives on most intimate and agreeable terms with his animals like his tigers. One of them is so gentle that after being further tamed by playing with a favorite dog, he was available for petting and photography. I was duly photographed stroking him with highly tentative affection. I envy the children of Ahmedabad, their zoo, and their garden. Reuben spent a large part of his life at the zoo, but at the stroke of 8, every night, Reuben returned home. To his daughter Esther and grandchildren Amrita and Robin. Those were days of eating, drinking, laughing as Reuben regaled friends and family with animal stories. But Sarah had a rival in Emily, the chimpanzee, who was very possessive about Reuben, who could not pass her cage without stopping his car and shaking hands with her. She also hated the orangutan in the enclosure next to her, especially so if Reuben stood longer with them. Besides this little love affair with Emily, he was known as Tarzan, as he had the power to capture animals, birds, or reptiles unarmed without the use of tranquilizer guns or other weapons. In this way, he captured the man eater crocodiles from Kankaria Lake and Chiloda Lake, along with a panther which had strayed into Ahmedabad and another which he had caught from a mosque in Vadna. At the end of his life, while traveling in Gir forest, he came face to face with a lioness, which stood there watching him for full 5 minutes and then left. Eventually, for all these qualities, he received the Padma Shri from the Government of India and was known as the Miracle Man of Ahmedabad. At the Padma Shri award function, the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi is known to have said, David, the country is proud of you. Debashish Mukherjee wrote in Reader's Digest, not only tigers respond to Reuben, parrots zero in at his whistle. A chimp sulks when he plays with her neighbor. Hippos, crocodiles, brown bears perk up at hearing the voice of the gentle animal keeper of Ahmedabad. But somewhere along the line, the rose died with Reuben when he lost his voice to cancer. Later, he regained a different voice with esophagus speech and an electrolarynx sent by his nephew, Dr. Charles David from Canada. Interestingly, even when he lost his voice, birds, animals, and reptiles recognized him. This was the reason why he always wore a standard khaki dress. As he said, this is how the animals recognized him, especially so with the brigadier mustache, a dress style he never changed till the end. After the structure of the joint family broke up and Reuben was making the zoo, he moved to Shaiba, where Reuben had rented a small outhouse in the compound of Lakshmi Nivas bungalows. When the 100-year lease of this land, where their home was situated, ended, they moved to Vasna, where Reuben was making a farm to breed exotic birds and poultry as an alternative profession after retirement. But this was not to be. He was given a letter from the mayor of Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation that he would be the honorary director of the zoo as long as he lived. All along, the people of Gujarat loved Reuben because during the riots, mobsters helped him reach the zoo, leading the way, although he was in a car driven by a Muslim driver. Then there was the time when he stood voiceless in front of a rioting mob at the zoo, challenging them in his electro-larynx voice. You can enter the zoo, but over my dead body. And they left. Reuben often joked, people come to the zoo to see me instead of the animals, as I am voiceless like my animal friends. His contribution is best described in the words of Australian anthropologist Colin Groves. I feel honored to have known Mr. Reuben David, the doyen of Indian zoo directors and one of the most remarkable human beings I have ever met. He is like an endangered species on earth. Till his end, Reuben David was a much loved personality, loved by his wild pets and the people of Gujarat, India, and the world. He was also well known for his passion for the arts and a great sense of humor. The present tree-lined zoo complex around Kankaria Lake is Reuben's Ethiopian dream, which he realized with hard work and cooperation from the civic authorities of the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation. He gave Ahmedabad a zoo, a children's park, and planted more than 1,000 trees around Kankaria Lake. Whatever he touched turned green. His entire life was woven with colors and textures of nature. He created an awareness of nature in Ahmedabad and put it on the world map by making one of the best zoos in Asia. The zoo was his life, and he was there till the end. The Kamala Nehru Zoological Park, Chacha Nehru Balvatika, National History Museum are testaments of his dedication towards the education and conservation of wildlife, which he built brick by brick, tree by tree, bird by bird, and animal by animal. His creations around the historical lake of Kankaria in Ahmedabad are edifices that have immortalized him for posterity around the world. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, on 4th April 1961, wrote, I am happy to visit Balvatika, about which I had heard so much. It is a delightful place for children, and I wish there were many more like it all over India. Reuben David's affectionate smile, jovial and loving nature, milestones of breeding in captivity, passion for the animals, birds, scientific approach, life saving touch, conservation and preservation of nature are all outstanding qualities that he was known for.
My late father, Dr. David Joseph, was a great bird and animal lover and kept birds and animals throughout his lifetime. I inherited this hobby from my father and I have devoted my complete life to it. As luck would have it, the municipal corporation of Ahmedabad gave me the opportunity to work as the first superintendent of the zoo at Bangalore, which was started from scratch in the year 1951. And today, I can boast of my small zoo and Balvatika, which are entirely my own creations, to which I am attached like a father devoted to his child. Birds and animals have their own language, which is meant to communicate and to understand each other. It does not consist of speech, but of simple sounds and actions, indicating love, pleasure, threat, alarm, invasion, etc. at different times. They do have their own conversations or express their own views or opinions as the humans can. To understand the animal language, one has to completely devote himself to their study. I am not a great naturalist or a big ornithologist, as no man can boast mastery over any subject in the world, as it is as good as picking up pebbles on the seashore of knowledge. I feel it necessary to report various sounds of animals and songs of various birds, which very few people have tried so far in our country. Now I start with some of my canary birds. They will start the song along with the tunes of my lullaby. This also proves that music has its charm and gives inspiration even to birds.
The music is now discontinued, yet the effect of music still lingers on and inspires the birds to continue their song for some time. A lesser sulfur-crested cockatoo trying to talk Ganymede. Kaka, Polly, Polly, बोलो बेटा. Polly, kaka kawa, बोलो बेटा, बोलो, 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 कका, बोलो बेटा, बोलो. Kawan, boleh, boleh, kakak, boleh, boleh.
This is the howling of gibbons, Hylobates coda. Gibbons are the smallest of them.
Drawing the curtains while retiring to bed, only a few can say, I am glad I could do this today. And when it's time to pack up, as the sunset on the distant horizon smiles, fewer still can say, well, I've done enough. And I hope I am remembered.
I was very small, I used to always, after I met Reuben David, I used to keep telling him that either I would become a zoo superintendent or a veterinary doctor. And he would tell me, don't do that, there's no money in it. But he was somebody who could mix with anybody. Even the small, you could see, I was so young, but we were great friends. And that was so with the people of Ahmedabad. And that is why I was very keen that I would be able to try and put something together. There's a lot that I could salvage from many of the old videos. That's why the quality of that is like this. Even his voice, nobody's really heard him speak because all of us were in that generation when he had already lost his voice. But he used to be talking to birds and animals, and they would respond. And I remember some moments when I used to go to the house, and he would be sitting with his music playing in the background, and tears would. I think my voice is stuck. Um, and tears would roll down his eyes because he did. He did miss that. Oh, okay. Uh, so when you meet such a person, like I said, I'm blessed that I was able to meet him, to spend so much of. No, I'm fine. So, like I said, I'm blessed that I could meet him, spend so many years with him. It was not just 1 or 2 years, but when I finished college and I came back to Baroda, again, I met him. And something very, and this is a small thing, a secret I would like to share here. Reuben David loved life, and he loved entertaining people, having people at home. And when I used to go with my parents, my father, being a pure Gandhian, he would never have anything to drink as such. And Reuben David loved it. Esther, with your permission, if I can share this. Daddy was a man with 6 heart attacks, and Reuben David also had a couple of them. So he used to say, Shriram, have one. See, I'm strong enough, and you'll be much better than this. And Daddy would politely decline. But a small secret which I would like to share is many years later, when I came back from college and I met him, and we were sitting down and talking, and as usual, evening was his personal time. We met, and he would share all those memories, and he would say, I just can't believe that so many years have passed by, and we are still friends. And not only was he a friend, his lovely daughter who's sitting here, Esther, became a very close friend, a family. My wife Anita and I often share a lot of moments together with her. And so also her children, Robin and Amrita. And now we have Meera and Reuben here, and also Esther's son who's there. So, 4 generations, one has to be lucky to be friendly with a person like him. So thank you very much, all of you, for being here. But before we end, Sir had said that he would like to watch the film, but Sir, if you would like to say something after having seen this film, and yes, and we'll come to this, and then after that, I would also like Achutbhai to say something. And then, of course, Esther. Sir, Dr. M.P. Chandran.
Good evening. I would say I'm blessed to be here today, this evening, to watch a documentary of such a person whom I just can't believe lived in Ahmedabad and was a part of our lives. We have gone to the zoo, we must have met him, seen him, but never realized how miraculous a person he was. He lived a life larger than anyone that we could imagine. And I would thank Vijay for bringing his life to the screen so that Ahmedabadis and Indians could know, realize that such a person really lived in Ahmedabad and walked amongst us. Thank you, Vijay, and thanks. I would like to pay tribute to such a great person who made Ahmedabad what it is, giving us the zoo, the Balvatika, and it's a pleasure for every child who visit Ahmedabad to go there and be a part of nature. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Uh, can I start with a round of applause for Bijoy sir? Every time I meet him, every time I look at him doing something, and he amazes me. Today, he introduced me to a person whom I would have never known in my life. I have been to Kankaria Zoo with my parents. I have taken my child to Kankaria Zoo, but I never knew this side of the story. I am really happy. I am rather emotional. I do not know. I've never met sir, right? I never got an opportunity. I think he lost his life in 1989, right? I must be 9 years old. But I feel that after watching this documentary, I feel I lived with him. I'm feeling connected to him and I'm thankful. I'm feeling very blessed. I'm feeling very happy to have known somebody of this stature in my life. And I'm really thankful to SMM and Bijoy and all of you here that we could share these amazing moments together. Thank you very much.
Hello, hello, hello.
Um, Thank you. Can you hear me? No. Can you? Okay. Um, but if I just stop.
Yeah.
Enjoy. I would like to really thank you more than anything else. That we, as we say, we are family members. So this was great. How this was going to happen, there was money who was part of our family when he was a man for a long time. Always there were like young people who were attracted to him because he was like that, as you see. Uh, for me, I think this is going to be one of the most difficult. Um, I was trying to get out of this, and I don't want to talk. I don't want to say anything, but I will say it all. Um, First thing I want to say, well, my father decided to make this move with the civic authorities, which was for the, in those days, to give such a big responsibility to somebody who had no big degrees was, I think, the civic authority vision of Ahmedabad. So this is what first thing which I think is almost forgotten, that he gave not only an understanding of wildlife, he gave an understanding of everything green, environment, understanding of nature, preservation, conservation, uh, every little thing. Like from the zoo to One Tree Hill, almost all the trees were planted by him, and I can still recognize many trees, many parts which I know my father had touched. The touch is there. Um, Secondly, that now we've seen everything, so I don't have much to say, but I can only say that I've been trying to put the words together, that he who was always carrying the resignation letter in his pocket. So my mother was a pillar of strength. She ran the house, she looked after him, she believed in him. Maybe she was not always comfortable with his creepy crawling creatures all over. So, but still, she loved him so much and they loved each other so much that this became a possibility. The most part about that, when the whole family said that Reuben will do nothing, it was his mother, that's my grandmother, and saw, who said, no, he will. She would talk in Marathi, and she said, no, I'm sorry, I can't speak Marathi, so I can't repeat what she said. But she said, he is going to be one of the greatest people of India. That's what her vision was about him. Uh, the third thing that I would like to say is that my mother worked all her life as a school teacher, first with Shreyas and then with Prakash. And there was like when I was going to school and all that, he was my babysitter. So when somebody is your babysitter, it looks as though he's not attentive towards you, but he's constantly attentive towards you. So that is how, that's a very big moment of my life to remember that he was my biggest babysitter. I think then. So he was also very humorous, very funny. But before I end, I want to say something that at various moments in the last few years after 1989, as all my many of you know, I sit and write at cafes and draw and things like that. And people sometimes come and they have no clue. They think that I have something to do with the zoo. So I started thinking that there is we have to bring back the memory as to who created this. And I being his daughter, it was my responsibility. At first, I thought it was a responsibility I would never be able to accomplish. I would never be able to do anything. I was against many bureaucratic walls which I could not break nor pass through, and I did not know how I was going to bring back this wonderful story and this truth and this tribute and this reality to the people of Ahmedabad. Uh, and it was a very unusual profession for a very, we used to come from another Orthodox Jewish family to break bonds and say, this is what I want to be. But I want to end by saying that we could, after speaking to three people in the last 2, 3 years or 5 years, I don't know, one of them, Vijay, one of them, Vivek Desai,
Vivek, please stand up.
Vivek,
Please, Vivek, please stand up.
and
Anil Bhai.
Sally Krabs, my father. The three people who could bring back the movie to that, and to very much I can't speak anymore.
Thank you, each one of you, for coming here today and sharing this moment with us, with Esther and the family. I would love to thank AMA, especially Unmesh Bhai Dikshit, who, when I offered this thing, immediately said, yes, we'll have it here, and also Mukund Bhai Patel, who said, yes, we should try and do it here. And they gave us this beautiful space. Thank you, Chandran sir, for being here. Thank you, Dani sir, for being here. The trustees of Asia Charitable Trust and also the managing committee members and our artist family of Ahmedabad, people who have taken the banner of art of Ahmedabad all over the world. Thank you, each one of you, for being here, and I hope you go back with beautiful memories. This is something that I did last night of Reuben David, And I have this with me, which one of the things that I dream of and I would love to do after this is to not only put it on YouTube so that a wider audience can see it after doing a few alterations in the sound, but also take it to various schools because this generation of children in the school should see this and know who created the Kamala Nehru Zoological Garden, the Balvatika, and the Natural History Museum. Thank you very much. Good night.